Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it.
What's up, Coach? Are you looking for a way to elevate your off-season skill development? Well, look no further. With the Bology app, you can build a workout with our library or create your own content. Send that workout to your players, and then your players complete the workout by recording their session on their phones. You can monitor and encourage competition with our leaderboards for every workout. Bology offers player development solutions in the palm of your hands. Get your team started today by going to bology.com for more info.
With 700 wins, and we kind of discussed that, how many seasons as a head coach?
So I was at Crawford for 1 year, Rockwall for 12, just finished my 11th at Sunnyvale. So what is that, 24? So 24 seasons as a head coach.
Wow, that's incredible. Just doing that math right there. Like, so obviously, and I think you would agree, a lot of that credit does have to go to our players. Whenever like a lot of times that win award is directed at us, but there's a lot more people involved. And I also think culture has to do a lot with that, because you've been at several schools. How has culture created that atmosphere where success can happen?
Right. I think that the culture, getting that set and how you want it as a head coach, then it should, if it's done right, feed on itself and just continue. Now, of course, you have to still fight for that culture every day. But once the kids know it and they know what's expected, then your leaders want to do that. Your leaders, I feel like, want to see that happen. Your assistants know what it should look like. And so, it would run without you there. I would like to think if I were out for a month, then things would just still go on the exact same way through our kids that are the leaders, through our assistants, et cetera, that they would be able to keep doing what we do.
Yeah. I like the idea too of what you said. If we're not there, is there a different feeling in the workout, in the building? Because obviously we do, as coaches, I think we need to set a tone, and we are directing sometimes where that culture goes. But when we leave, when assistants are taking over, is there a different feel, or does it remain the same? I think that's huge.
Right. And for us, just looking and finding those leaders amongst our players is really big for us too. And kind of building those kids up, through their career, so to speak, in high school.
I think culture is kind of like discipline too. Like, the more you have to talk about it, maybe the less it's really there. Like anytime a coach is like, "Oh, we're disciplined," it always makes me wonder, really? Do you have to keep talking about it? I think with our team, it's not that we have to use that word culture, which
Right.
is a buzzword, and a lot of people kind of start to glaze over when they hear that, even though it's really important. But I think a big part is not necessarily having to say that we're fighting for our culture, but doing things that is keeping it alive. So what are some of those things? Maybe it's an activity, something that you do daily, weekly with your players that keeps that culture going.
Even in this off season, we have it to where the girls have an hour off for lunch every day at school right now. And so we try to have a lunch at least once a week.
Nice.
And it has nothing to do with basketball. I mean, they literally just go into Coach Johnson's room and everybody's in there and they eat lunch and we all goof around, talk about anything. And what's funny is one of my sophomores today was like, "Hey, why didn't we eat lunch today? Why didn't we have lunch today?" And my JV coach said, "Well, you can set it up. Why don't you text everybody and get that together for tomorrow?" Even though she's going to be out for something, our coach. And so it put that in this girl's hands and she was like, "Look, I was a leader. I invited everybody to come hang out and eat lunch," basically. which doesn't sound like a big deal, but we just want them to be together and
Mm,
to be hanging out and to be having fun where it's not all just basketball. I will say one of my favorite things that we do is for senior night. And so once we get to senior night, we have a team dinner the night before our last home game. And so this senior night team dinner, we invite all of the senior parents to come to that. And what we do is the seniors have written a letter to the team. And
mm.
so at that team dinner, we eat dinner, we hang out, and they read their letter to the team about what it has meant for them to be a part of the program, what it's meant for them to be a Lady Raider. And I will tell you, it ends in tears.
I
Everyone's
bet.
crying,
Yeah.
the parents, the coaches, the kids. And then so each player then writes all three of the seniors. This year we had three seniors. So when we went to that team dinner, those three seniors read their letter to the team. And then the other kids, they showed up with letters for all three of the seniors. So at senior night, what we gave them was a notebook of letters from every individual on the team. All the players, managers, and coaches have written them a letter saying, this is what we love about you. We're going to be fighting for you in the playoffs. When we get to the playoffs, we're fighting for you. We want to keep this going for you. And I really just love that idea of we want to stick together so that we can keep going because you're a senior. We want to honor your commitment to the team and to the program.
Wow.
So that's something cool that we've kind of just developed over the years.
You said parents were there at that dinner.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think that's really sharp, like important to involve parents as much as we can in the standards, the pillars, or culture activities that we're doing, because so often, and you guys do a good job of using social media too, like your platform on Twitter. I just enjoyed kind of going through it and seeing how active you are in celebrating your players, involving the community, involving younger play, sixth grade, seventh and eighth grade on there. Like everybody seemed to be a part of your program, which is really cool. But to think that our players will go home and give a correct assessment or explain what the culture is to our families, that's dangerous.
Yes.
But when we bring them in, they get to experience it. And we withdraw from parents and families quite a bit throughout the year. I think that's some great opportunities to show and deposit into them.
Right. And that's what I try to tell young coaches nowadays as a more, I don't know what you call it, older coach is
I would say experienced. I would
experience.
never
Experience.
say older. Yeah.
But, when you're younger, sometimes you're intimidated by parents, you're intimidated by them being around. And I'll just say we should see this is beneficial. With these parents, it should be a partnership. We should be
Mm.
working together. We want the best for their kids. They want the best for their kids. So let's make this a partnership. We're working together for this. And so we want the parents to be there. They love being a part of that senior night. We do some team dinners where parents can sign up to host those, and they're there at that. We want the parents to see what we're doing, and like you said, we try to celebrate kids on social media. And with the parents every week, I'll send out a sports you about what's coming up on the week and things like that. So seeing parents as a benefit is a big deal. In fact, even at our end of season meetings, I'll say, bring your parents. If your parents, and of course, most of the kids are like, no, no, no. But on that last meeting we have with kids, hey, bring your parents. They may want to hear these answers, the answers that the kids give, the answers that the coaches give, and we can have some dialogue and let them speak into it a little bit as well.
Man, that's really good. And I think early on, you're right. And maybe not every coach when they're younger, but I know I struggled with this, was viewing parents as enemies rather as allies. And I think that, and use the word partner, I think too, like it's when we look at them as allies and we're partnering with them, we're all stakeholders in their development. That's just a mind shift that I think helps the way that we communicate. It helps the way that we take in information that our players give us. Instead of being on edge already, we're able to maybe process messages that parents send or things that they're telling their kids, like just better. And the more that we can view them as allies, I think that's
Right.
huge.
And some of that is just being a parent and me having
Yeah. Yeah.
3 boys that have been involved in athletics and all. My youngest boy is a junior in high school, and so now them, the oldest two, graduating, playing football and basketball the whole time, and things like that. And you just see that, hey, we want what's best for our kids. I want them to learn life lessons through athletics. I'm not looking for you've got to get them a D1 scholarship. As a parent, I just want them to learn, and I want them to get better, and I want them to learn just all kinds of life lessons.
You're right on the money. What a huge shift from not having kids to having them. And really how it changed my perspective as a coach, where now sitting on the sidelines watching my son play select ball, I am forced to try to control my thoughts. And it was one time my wife was like, "Do we need to talk to the coach?" Like, no, we're not going to do that. Like, we're not those people. But like, so now when I get to talk with parents, there is more of like, I understand, like, I
Right.
understand what you're going through. The challenge is for younger coaches that maybe aren't in that role yet to already start to have that empathy towards the parents and really, I mean, if we respect their position and their role with our players, that should help.
Right. I think so as well. And just trying to understand that they want what's best for their kid, and they're seeing everything through the lens of just their child.
Yeah.
We're seeing it with regards to the whole team. And so just understanding that and knowing that, I think a lot of times helps.
And accept the fact that you're not going to please everybody and that you may not always get everybody to look through the lens that we use. Like, that's just not, it's most likely not possible. So when you accept that, I think it can help us, because that was always a frustrating thing. It was like, why don't they care more about the team than,
Right.
well, because they have that lens, that tunnel vision, and that's
Right.
okay. But the more that we can bring them in behind the scenes and let them see how we're impacting our players, not just on the floor, I think that helps. It goes a long way.
Right.
One thing I think it's important that you said is you have the lunch once a week, which so many times I think with culture we think about the senior night dinner. That's a big thing. And we
Right.
think like we have to do a ton of big things throughout the year. I think it's big and small. It's the thousand. What is culture? It's the thousand little things that we do throughout a season. The little conversations. Coaches, that's a huge nugget. Lunch once a week with your players. It costs you nothing, and
Mhm.
you're already at the school. Like,
Right.
because so many times we think, I just don't have time to do more things with bonding and culture, getting to know players. I think you just hit on one way right there that we can all do.
Right. And you know what's funny is whenever I was thinking about this, I actually asked some of my players, like, "Hey, what was your favorite culture building activity?" And something I thought was so interesting is one girl said, "You know what? The best thing was that I had to do this year. This is so weird." I'm like, "What?" And she said, "We were at our one out of town tournament, and I had 3 girls that were in one room. They overslept. They missed the team breakfast." Now, all it was a team breakfast. It wasn't a practice, it wasn't getting on the bus, but we were supposed to eat breakfast. And so they didn't show up at all. And I made them do what we call a do right. And they didn't get to start. 2 of them are all state players, by the way, that weren't there. And so they didn't get to play the whole first quarter. And then when we got back home, they had to do a do right. And she said, "That was my favorite team building thing I had to do all year." I said, "A do right?" But she said, "Yes, because I learned I would be accountable for my actions. I was going to be accountable. Even when it wasn't a basketball thing, I was going to be accountable and it was going to affect the team. I laughed at that, but I thought, well, okay, that can work.
Great activity is to ask
Yeah.
our players what they loved. And I've kind of stolen this from, I think, Mark Cassio, or borrowed from Mark Cassio. He said three things he asked his seniors: what's something they loved, what's something that we need to keep doing, what's something that they wish that we did, and something that they wish we didn't do anymore. Like, and you'll hear a lot from those, but like asking them, what's your favorite culture activity? It's amazing the answers that you get. I got to ask, what's a do right?
So a do right it is a whole sheet of it takes about 45 minutes for them to complete. It's basically, if you do something wrong, then
you got to do right.
You're going to do right. And once a player does a do right, she never wants to do one again. But it includes things like some towel push. So it has a upper body section, a cardio section, a lower body section, abs. I mean, it's a whole body workout. And it is only reserved for some serious things. Those were the only 3 players that did one this entire year.
Wow. And the threat of a do right is enough.
Right. Most of the time. It's something we put together years ago, honestly, when we were at Rockwall. And so we've had that, but most players don't ever end up having to do one.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.